Welcome to Coverage Over Coffee, hosted by AI Mutual. I am Agent Ivory, and here we talk about various insurance topics in a fun and informative way that is easy to understand. Enjoy hot coffee and delicious pastries with like-minded people that are excited about creating generational wealth for their families. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the channel. Here at AI Mutual, we absolutely love coffee. You know what time it is. Time for this week's Coffee Shop Spotlight. Today, we are on site at Espumoso Cafe in the heart of Bishop Arts, Dallas, Texas. Espumoso Cafe is an empanada and espresso bar. Thanks for joining Coverage Over Coffee. Today we're at one of my favorite coffee shops in Bishop Arts. It's really nice. It's Espumoso. It's a Latin coffee shop. They have amazing empanadas. And then autos, we have Espumoso. Nice coffee. So good. I got mine with Toffee Crunch. You gotta come check them out. But they have been here for a while. I used to have points with them, and I think they got rid of their point system here. But nevertheless, great service, great coffee, great food. Come check them out. All right, let's get started. Favorite highlights of this cafe includes 3 local newspapers that give you the scoop on events happening in a local community, outdoor bistro seating, friendly service, of course, great coffee, tasty empanadas. They have beef and potato, chicken and cheese, pepperoni and cheese, and veggie, which are my favorite. Great delivery options with Uber Eats, Postmates, and DoorDash. This is an eclectic cafe that you must try next time you're in Dallas, Texas. I'm only giving them 4 stars because they no longer have the rewards program, which I loved. But definitely check them out. They are amazing. And please tell them AI Mutual referred you. Welcome back to our Legacy series. This week, we will discuss generational wealth. We will define the definition of generational wealth, why it's imperative for your family to own a life policy, and discuss how to effectively pass down wealth to future generations. So my question to you is, what is generational wealth? Well, most people would say, Agent Ivory, it's wealth that's passed down from one generation to the next. Well, that's true. That's a great self-explanatory answer, one would say. But in order to fully grasp what this means, we need to understand and break down the equation. So here you will see my equation that I have for generational wealth. Successive family units plus residual assets equal generational wealth. So before we get into this a little bit more, let's just look at the definitions, okay? Let's break that down. So what is the definition of wealth? Wealth is the abundance of valuable financial assets or physical possessions which can be converted into a form that can be used for transactions. So in this particular definition, the key words that we want to highlight are abundance, assets, and conversions. So let's look further into those words. So what is abundance? Abundance means a lot, a very large quantity of something. What is assets? Property owned by a person or company, regarded as having value and available to meet debts, commitments, or legacies. So some examples of assets include life insurance, real estate, autos, jewelry, bank accounts, CDs, annuities, IRAs, and much more, right? And then let's look at the word conversion. Conversion means change or transform. So this is very important because a lot of people have, an abundance of stuff that cannot be converted into money to meet financial obligations. The goal here is to create an abundance of something that holds value that can be converted to meet financial obligations. So let's look at the definition of generational. Relating to or characteristic of all the people born and living at about the same time regarded collectively. So again, we're looking at the keywords people born, living at about the same time collectively. What really kind of helped me understand this is just thinking about my cousins. And if you think about your cousins and then your parents' cousins and their cousins, you can kind of see that, right? Everyone's not the same age, but you all are people who are living about the same time. So you guys were born around the same time. I know my cousins, we were all kind of born within, I would say, maybe 3 to 5 years of each other. Sometimes, in some cases, back to back, right? But that's a collection right there. So we're cousins. And then when we have our children, they're now cousins because they were born around the same time. So that's going to be considered a generation. So here we're talking about a current or future family collective unit, also known as descendants, heirs, and offspring. And I love these words because these words are not used every day. I know I always ask my clients, when's the last time you've used this word in a sentence? Sometimes people are really scratching their head like, when was the last time I used the word descendants or heirs or offspring? But when you start to use those words daily, is what I like to say, or at least often, you know that you have a responsibility to leave them something, okay? But some other words you may see instead of generational wealth may be inheritance or legacy. So sometimes people don't say generational wealth. They may say they want to leave an inheritance for their family or leave a legacy. There are some families that we know who embody this philosophy of generational wealth. Some of these families I have listed here. Okay, so the Rockefellers, the Queen of England, which I like to just use her face as the royal family, and then the Kennedys. And so here, as you see, the Rockefellers, look at these people's net worth, right? And this is all an estimate because it's always changing. But $1.4 billion. How did they make their money? From the government, real estate, trust, oil. The Kennedy family, again, $1 billion. We notably know them due to the government, right? They have a lot of positions within the government. But also, they've made a lot of money via real estate and trust. And if you see, so the kind of the theme here is trust, right? So they make sure everything's passed down from generation to generation. And of course, the royal family. Of course, the queen just passed away, but best believe that has not hindered their financial status at all, right? So the net worth, and this is just an estimate because they're very secretive of how much money total that they have, but it's estimated for their net worth to be around $28 billion. Of course, we list here the government and business. And I also say real estate too, because they own so much land all across the world. But why do these names stick out? It's because they have built empires and have passed them successfully down to each generation. So it all just started with one person and each of these families who made a decision that they wanted to have wealth be symbolic with their last name. And because of that one person who decided that, now they have generations of wealth. So, what does the Bible say about generational wealth? So, yes, we're looking at people from a carnal standpoint, but what about a biblical standpoint? Let's all look at Proverbs chapter 13, verse 22. It reads, "A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children." In its Hebrew form, it means very literally what it says: an inheritance being possessions, endowments, and allotments. So I really love this verse here. Again, it's talking about 3 generations, which we'll go into a little bit later, but 3 generations here that you who is listening to this presentation are responsible for. So sometimes we like to blame everyone for not leaving wealth to us. Well, guess what? You now have responsibility to leave wealth not only for yourself, you should be able to have wealth, but then also your children should have wealth, and then their children's should have wealth. So I love this because this is a great system that God has set up. If each person takes care of the next two generations, then your last name will forever have wealth. And just going back to that, I wanted to ask a question. So, what do you want your physical and spiritual legacy to be for your family? Okay. And why do I say that? Let's take a look at Psalms 112, verse 2 through 3. It said, "Blessed is the man who fears the Lord, who finds great delight in his commands. His descendants will be mighty in the land. The generation of the upright will be blessed. Wealth and riches are in his house, and his righteousness endures forever." I love these words, right? So here goes our word again that we love, the descendants. Land, again, that's something that is wealth, right? That's passed down from generation to generation. They even use the word generation in here. He calls this man blessed. Okay, again, there goes those words, wealth and riches are in his house. And again, I love the word forever. He said, and his righteousness endures forever. So this is nonstop. We can actually place blessings on our family for generations to come. So you can be that person to do that. So the question to you is, how much wealth are you leaving your future heirs? So has anybody heard about this? I know when I heard this in 2020, I was very shocked. So here we have the Democrat presidential hopeful, Andrew Yang. He actually mentioned this on the Breakfast Club as well as during one of the primary debates. He actually stated that Black wealth would be zero by 2053. So, of course, I did my research also with Dr. Claude Anderson, the Black economist, mentioned this as well. So, unfortunately, the Black community is on a downward spiral right now when it comes to wealth. So, we need to correct this ASAP. And so right now we have to start thinking of things that we can do individually and collectively to make sure that we get on the right track. And one thing I also wanted to say before I go there is, how is this wealth uh, going to disappear? Some people may ask. Well, unfortunately, right now we're actually going through a wealth transfer. Many people don't know it, but you need to get the books. It's everywhere. It's documented everywhere. Purchase The Great Reset. Uh, Definitely read that line by line, meditate on it, pray about it, because this reset that's taking place right now is going to dictate how your heirs will be for generations to come. Okay. So not only are we going through the wealth transfer right now, but we also have low home ownership rates. A lot of people are using payday loans. Of course, we have gentrification in our neighborhood, artificial intelligence, jobs are being shipped overseas, and so on and so on. So, this is how we're on this downward spiral and headed to zero wealth by 2053. And I like to let people know this, and I hope this gives you a sense of urgency. That's not that far away, folks. 2053, you're like, okay, well, it's not here yet, but start thinking about your children. How old will your children be in 2053? What kind of life do you want them to have at that time? So you have to start putting those measures in place now to guarantee what type of life that they will have. And just to kind of give you an idea about the disparity between various households, did you know that white households are projected to own 86 times more wealth than Black households and 68 times more wealth than Latino households? Black people will only have their current income to rely on, which is not good. If you don't own anything, all you have, is your income that you have with your employer. And like I just said, a lot of these jobs are being given to artificial intelligence or going overseas. So we have to think about how much wealth are we really going to have. So please remember that wealth inequality also lasts for generations. So we have seen that, haven't we? We've been plagued with no wealth for generations. So I say you need to make that decision to end this cycle for your family, and you can do that. So one thing is that I love is that everyone always talks about wanting to be rich. Since, everybody was a little kid, they've dreamed of that big home, that fancy car, traveling the world. Everybody's always wanted to be rich. Okay, great. Now we're adults. And I say, if you want to be like the elite, practice what they do. And guess what? Rich people have life policies. They do. So Nipsey Hussle here, who I absolutely who loved, he did so much for our community. But when he passed away, his net worth was $8 million. Even though he was a millionaire, he actually purchased a $1 million policy. Very wise of this young man to do that. A lot of people his age, he was in his early 30s when he passed away. A lot of people his age are not wise enough to purchase life insurance. Even though he had the $8 million in wealth, that may get caught up, because it's tied to his estate. So it's not going to be released that quickly to his heirs. However, when you have a life policy, first of all, he was young, he was healthy, so he was able to get qualified probably very easily, for that $1 million policy. And he was probably paying, if $100 a month. I mean, very probably not that much money at all, right? At that time when he purchased it. So very smart on his end. But once you list a beneficiary and you pass away, that goes pretty quickly to your beneficiary. They're not having to wait for anything to be tied up in the court system. So just very wise. So again, if we want to be like the rich, they too know the importance of life insurance. Right here, you see the lyrics from Legacy from Jay-Z album. And I'm just going to read this to you because I think these words are very profound. This is from his album, 444. It reads, "Take those monies and spread across families. My sisters, Hattie and Lou, the nephews, cousins, and TT. Eric the rest to be for whatever she wants to do. She might start an institute. She might put poor kids through school. My stake in Rock Nation should go to you. Leave a piece for your siblings to give to their children too. Title, the champagne, Duasse. I like to see a nice peace fund ideas from people who look like we. We're going to start a society within a society. That's major, just like the Negro League. There was a time America wouldn't let us ball. Those times are back now, just now called Afrotech. Generational wealth, that's the key. My parents ain't have nothing, so that nothing started with me. My mom took her money, she bought me bonds. That was the sweetest thing of all time. All right, I love this. I love it when we rap about wealth, we rap about life insurance, we're rapping about businesses. I love how he said he's going to leave money for his wife's family as well. Like he's talking legacy, right? And that's what this is called, legacy, 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 okay? I want us all to start singing that, start dreaming that, start visioning. We have to start envisioning what our future heirs are going to look like. What is our last name? How is our life going to look like 100 years from now? You can tell he has been thinking about this. And so he's putting items into place now to make sure that that happens. So again, so we already seen here that Nipsey Hussle knows about life insurance. We hear through Jay-Z lyrics that he also knows about life insurance. What about Warren Buffett? And we know Warren Buffett is a billionaire. He owns Berkshire Hathaway, a life insurance company as well. Guess what? Warren Buffett has been purchasing multiple policies each year for the past 3 decades. Okay, so let's not just say this is life insurance is just for people who don't have money. Millionaires understand, billionaires, in fact, even now, understand the importance of life insurance. And if you want to get into deeper on all of the benefits, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to discuss that for you and your family. But to leave a legacy, you need to purchase more than the debts and liabilities owed. So, how much insurance coverage do you need? Well, here's the calculator right here. And I do have this as well for you to calculate. I love to do this with all of my clients to have, that first total that you actually need to be able to cover everything. And then I also like to come up with a visionary total. So this again goes back to that generational wealth, just like how Jay-Z was envisioning what his family can use that money for for generations to come. Same thing for you. Maybe we'll go through this whole worksheet here and calculate that you need $500,000, right, to cover all of your expenses, liabilities, such as any type of outstanding debt that you may have, mortgages, things of that nature. But then guess what? Maybe you're like, hey, guess what, Nicole? I want an extra $500,000 just set aside for my child because I don't want them, to not be able to start a business if they have a great idea. I don't want them to not be able to go to their school of choice. I want them to be able to purchase a home in the neighborhood that they want to live in. And I want them to be able to give back if they feel like they want to do that or travel the world. And so I love that. I love the fact that you're leaving your heirs options. And if that's what you want to do, of course, everybody's total is going to be different. But in this example that I just gave, now we're talking about $1 million life policy. Okay. So I do have this quick estimator to go through to calculate how much you would need for you and your family, and just definitely make sure you add more for that legacy creation. Okay. So we've talked about how to be a blessing to your family and to leave wealth to your family. We need to do that, right? Because right now, unfortunately, it's kind of like the 1% versus 99%. A lot of 99% people are leaving curses to their family. You know how they say that you want to stop that generational curse, because that's pretty much what a lot of the 99% of the folks across the world are doing. So we don't want to be a part of that. And so I'm going to talk about the curse of 3 generations, and then the 4 generational curse from a biblical standpoint. Okay. But the Chinese believe that family wealth will not last for 3 generations. They say that the first generation makes the money, the second spends it, and the third sees nothing of the wealth. And that sounds about right, because the first person may not want to be poor anymore. They're tired of living that poor lifestyle. They want more for themselves. So they work really hard. They start that business. They put in those, 80 plus hours a week. Like people say, they get it from the mud, right? So now they're very wealthy. So the second generation, their kids been seeing their parents do all this toiling, right? However, sometimes the parents don't want their kids to have to work as hard as they do. So the kids are a little bit lazy, right? So they're doing all the spending of the parents' money. By the time the kids get married and have their kids, the curse of the 4 generations. So the Chinese have the 3, and then in the Bible, they have the 4. So the 4 generation curse was the judgment for violating the prohibition against idolatry. Okay, and I have a lot of scriptures for that. But what we're going to focus today is Exodus 20:5. But just to let you know, the other scriptures would be Exodus 34:7, Numbers 14:18 and 33, Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 9, 1 Kings chapter 21, verse 29, and Jeremiah chapter 32:18. So here you see, God is not playing. He is talking about, I will rain down fire on your family, right? If you worship idols. So Exodus 25, it says, you shall not worship them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting, or it means punishing, the iniquity of the fathers on the children, on the third and the 4th generation of those who hate me. So here, look at this. He's talking about, look, your 3rd and 4th generations will be cursed. All right. If you don't do what you need to do from a spiritual standpoint. So yes, we need to do what we need to do from a monetary standpoint, right? From a carnal standpoint, but we also have to make sure we're doing right from a spiritual standpoint. So I wanted to bring that up because they just both seem very similar to me when I was reading about and doing my research about the curses that families unfortunately go through. So just make sure your family, household, everything is right. Make sure there's peace. Make sure there's harmony. Make sure you're treating people right. Make sure you're doing right by others. Make sure you're teaching that financial literacy, okay, that you need. So my question to you is, will you accept the challenge to create generational wealth for your heirs? Don't choose curses for your generations. Choose blessings instead for your last name. Make sure prosperity is being passed down from generation to generation. So thanks so much. Again, this is the second topic for our legacy series. And on our next series, we will take a deep dive into some of these policies so you get to understand them a little bit more. All right. Thank you.